Hello. It's Dana Diaz here with my beautiful redheaded sister Victoria, who's crossing her eyeballs, even though she still looks cute with crossed eyeballs. So we are here on Narc, who's there. Help, I'm gasping for air. Finally back from, we've been sick, we've been had weather, we've had it's been a long January. So here
It's
we
been
are in
such a long
February. We
January.
are back. It was a very long
It was
January.
such a long January.
But we know that you guys have been waiting for us to answer more questions as more have, I'm assuming, have piled up. I can't even imagine.
Yes, they're
Yeah.
crazy, crazy, but we've also had some phenomenal people reaching out saying that they partake in listening to us, so our voices are in their ears, which is kind of nice and sweet and, fun in its own right. And I found out I have a cyber stalker, which is,
Ooh, that's
yeah,
exciting. A male or a female?
it's my sperm donor.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
you know what? I think it's this is good that we talk about this stuff because I have had numerous things happen to me since my first book came out, but it's all like I don't understand how people that age, because the people bothering me are late 50s, early 60s, sperm donor for you. What, 70s, something like that,
Soon to
late
be,
60s,
no, oh God, no, the other way.
early 70s, okay, 80, whatever. But it's just like you would think people have more. I don't care if you're 20. Don't you have something better to do like than to worry about what somebody else is doing and what they might be saying? And I just think that's so weird. And my most recent narcissist in my life, which will be featured in the book three, which is coming out soon. One of the last things she had ever said to me was that you're obsessed with me. And
Oh,
I'm
that
like,
one?
no,
Mm.
yeah, I'm like, no, it's more the other way around. And all the actions of the last 4 or 5 years have proven that. But yeah, it's an obsession. They're obsessed with people that refuse to bow down to them.
Right.
But what could he possibly gain from listening to anything that you do or following you online? Is he just trying to see if you're talking about him specifically or
Well, yeah, and Michael and I did our show last night, and I was like, oh, okay, well, since I have a cyber stalker, let me have a little fun. And so I did an excerpt and I made that the preview of the upcoming episode where it's like, shame on you. Shame on you.
yeah,
Because, you know, I don't care that you're wanting to stalk or whatever, but let's be real. This kid who's done nothing in her entire life but help others, you find out that she is on life support, multi-organ failure,
yeah.
and you have your head up your ass.
Hmm.
And I was like, shame on you. I said, you know what? It took me years and years and years, decades to realize that you don't have that power. You think you do, but you don't. And it's your loss because she's phenomenal. And everybody who meets her is better for meeting her. And for you to be such a shallow prick, that's on you. And so that was just like Michael was like, wow, okay. And it was just literally, you know how you get notifications for people that look like if they think that they are either a friend suggestion or if somebody is
Yes.
looking at your stuff all the
Yeah.
time, it'll say, somebody, this is somebody that you might know. And I get emails that say, um, this person has a lot in common with you because, and I mean, it's like a daily thing. And every day I'm getting emails and he's the consistent thing on them. And it's his. And what's just sick is the fact that like I was like, no, no. And I went and looked at it. And first of all, he's never posted anything, but he has hundreds of friends, and I say that loosely. And all of the friends, if you will, look like they could be his granddaughter. And they all, how can I say this and be respectful? They all look
I
like,
think we've thrown respectful out the window on this
okay,
show.
they all
Just
look
say
like
it.
ladies of the night
I'm sorry. I'm laughing. Yeah, that is actually very respectful. And
with big implants.
well, here's
And
the
they look,
thing.
yeah, they look They are
it,
young
it
enough.
we can't be surprised about this. And let me just back it up a little bit because some people are new to this show or might be listening to the first or second time. Just to give a very brief synopsis, Victoria is talking about when she says sperm donor, you can figure out what that is, but the she we're referring to is your daughter Faith, who was brought into this world under pretty horrific circumstances. You can read Victoria's book Who Kicked First for that. I highly recommend it, even though I have not found it in my heart to be able to read that about these two women that I love very much. But in Who's There, which is your most recent published book, that talks more about your relationship with your sperm donor and egg donor, as you refer to them, because of this horrific thing that you just said, that when Faith required, I mean, even up to what was it, a year and a half ago, the Christmas before last, she was literally fighting for her life for months,
Yes.
right around Christmas. But before that, even as a baby, she was hospitalized, her life holding on by a thin thread. And these people, her biological grandparents, couldn't be bothered to ask how she was, come visit, nothing, which is horrific. I don't care if you're estranged from somebody, don't care for your kid, whatever, fine. But, for an innocent child to have endured what Faith has endured, and I'm calling her Faith because yeah, I won't go there. I'll let you spill that news if you choose to, but that's how everybody else knows her. Um, but it's just so hard to think that people, I mean, just from a human perspective,
Yeah.
I've never even actually met you guys in person, but let me tell you, like, when she was in the hospital the Christmas before last, I mean, you guys were there for months.
Yeah. I never went home.
You
Yeah.
wouldn't leave her side. I remember you commenting that, like, you won't even leave her side to get like a cup of coffee or a sandwich.
No.
And the food in the hospital so expensive, and you have all these bills piling up, and your husband wouldn't work because he wasn't going to leave you or Faith. And people take for granted that you
Yeah.
were taking like a bite of a sandwich here and there if somebody brought one to you, if you could afford to even get one, because I mean, for months it adds up. Eating, it's just, the whole thing is just crazy. And to know that they're living just like my biological mother and stepfather who raised me are living, just a few miles away, 7 miles, I believe, something like that. And they're living high on the hog, as we say, and in a very obnoxiously large home for what they need. And, he's got the Jaguar and the Corvette and 3 Harleys and they got all the stuff and all the money. But when I needed, at 44, when I needed an oxygen machine, going into COVID, newly diagnosed with a lung syndrome, and my doctor said a cold will kill you, COVID will absolutely be life threatening, and I'm immunocompromised, they couldn't be bothered to come forward. I had people that were like my professional acquaintances, customers, that were like, here's $100, here's 200, let's all pitch in. I had somebody offer to get care credit. So it's just like, to me, that's being a human being. That's what I would do. I wanted to go be with you guys just to bring you a damn sandwich and a cup of coffee when you were in the hospital. So to know that a little baby, if my biological grandchild was in the hospital, I don't care what my relationship is with whoever,
That's right.
it's just sickening to me that there is somebody, not just somebody, two people out there. And I'm guessing they're not the only two people
They're
in this
not.
entire world that are like that, because we have a whole show dedicated to narcissists and people like them. But how effing disgusting.
Yeah.
How effing disgusting. And if one of them is cyber stalking and listening to this episode, I say shame on you too. And I have another few choice words for you that I wouldn't say unless they're warranted. But
Yeah.
God love it. I don't know how you guys deal with it, but I'm glad that we're here at least to help other people understand that, there are minor situations that are dealt with narcissists, and then there are some that are just so atrocious it's hard to believe they're even human.
Yeah,
I'm
but
sorry,
then
I'm getting off my soapbox now.
no,
It's
no.
just
But then that goes
so
back.
horrendous.
that goes back to the narc because if people haven't really either read it or uh, been listening to this podcast series, everything in the book is documented. Like there isn't, he said, she
Oh,
said,
it's all text messages, emails. You have pictures in there. I mean, there's no, you don't even need words. You could read it and say, this man, this married man, is
yeah,
using his granddaughter, using his daughter to gain material things, to find women
yeah,
that he shouldn't be partaking in. And I have a few things to say about those women as well, knowing he's a married man
gold
and being
digger. Yeah.
around you guys. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you, but this is just,
No, no,
yeah,
no. But I mean,
definitely people should read that book I read because that wasn't hard to read it, but it was amazing that you had, it wasn't just you saying, oh, this is what it was. I mean, everything is right there, screenshots, texts, emails, everything.
yeah. And I mean, it is because you and you know this from being the black sheep too, you literally feel like your whole life you have to prove your innocence, you have to prove you're telling the truth. If something happens, it's always your fault, even if you had nothing to do with it. If you're not even in the same state, it's still your fault. You did it. You know, you're being put to blame for it. They cannot hold themselves accountable for anything.
No, but
Doesn't
that's
matter.
what a scapegoat is. A
Right.
scapegoat is who you are projecting all of your crap onto. And we, as children of these people, absolutely internalize it. I am thankfully, I'm now 49 and finally realized not everything is my fault. I have, but it's interesting because, like, two of the things, signs to me that somebody has been through a traumatic childhood is if they overshare or over explain, because I was absolutely those things. And I didn't realize until adulthood that it really put people off, or they were like taken aback. Or I remember one time I even said something to somebody. I'm like, I'm not your priest. You don't have to confess to, like, I don't need all this extra. Oh, but, and I realized, oh my God, but I did that for so many years
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
It's because nobody believes us. You feel like you have to justify and prove and validate, and because nobody ever believed you.
Right.
And what a sickening thing to grow. And you don't realize it sometimes till you're really like, you've already raised your kids, you've been through stuff, and you look back and like, oh my gosh, I've been like this my whole life
Yeah.
because of them.
Yeah. They just will not hold themselves accountable for
No,
anything, no matter what it is. And so it was just, it was tough. And so to find out that this person is constantly looking, it's like, oh, okay, well, I don't know why. But the one thing that narcissists absolutely hate is to see the person that they blame everything on be successful. They don't want
a
them to
hundred
succeed. They
percent.
want them to lean on the narcissist so that they feel like they have that control. And when you don't give them that control, they don't handle it very well.
No, they don't. I think I said in Choking on Shame, my second book, I said I
Everybody
had to
needs to
be,
read.
thank you. I said I had to be the nothing that they thought I was. And if I'm not nothing, if I amount to anything, but that's all of them. It's jealousy. Their ego just, it all comes back to their ego. A narcissist the key aspect to narcissism is their ego cannot take accountability, because that would mean that, oh, they made a mistake or a bad decision, or they can't handle that. They have to be perfect. They're superior. They're above everybody, so it's somebody else's fault. Same thing. If somebody else succeeds, their ego interprets that as, oh, well, that means I didn't succeed because I didn't achieve that same thing. That's why these are never going to be the people that are rooting for you. They don't want you to succeed. They don't want you to have joy. They don't want you to have love. They don't want you to have anything. They want to see you just wallow away in misery, or you have to bow down to them. Those are your choices in their head. But I
Right,
say F all of it. Be
right.
you, do what you got to do, and just claw your way out.
Well,
That's
not
the
only
only way
that,
to be.
not only that, but it's like when they blame you for something and you blatantly show that they're the liar and you have all the proof in the world,
Oh,
they
they don't
still
see it.
spin it. Why did
Mm-hmm.
you have to do that? Why are you showing something? Why are you doing this? And they spin it where you're trying to show that you're telling the truth, you're being
Yeah.
honest, you're being forthcoming, and that you're not to blame for whatever it is. And
Oh,
then
I know.
they spin it around where it's like, I can't believe you betrayed me. Why would you do
I
that?
know.
And you're like, Beetlejuice. You're like, what? With your head? You're like,
That's why I'm laughing because you're right. I have been told that, oh, you betrayed me. My other favorite one is, oh, you must not have good character to expose that. It's like, but it's the truth. And you're lying. Like I'm not lying. It has nothing to do with character.
right. Or I will make your mom believe that you made me go
Yeah.
out with this girl. I didn't make you put anything of yours
Yeah.
into anything of hers. Like,
But look at how many people believe these narcissists because they are very good. When I was a little girl, I always said that my mom and stepdad, both narcissists, both different narcissists, but I always called them stories, these little twisted concoctions of reality that they would put out in the world before
right.
I would possibly go out and put the truth out before them. And it was always the stories. What story were they? And before they knew that I knew the truth and saw them for what they were, they would come to me and tell me, this is what we're telling people. I mean, I put a little of that in my book, but not to the extent that this actually happened. If somebody asks you this is how you're going to respond. If somebody says this, don't tell them that. This is what we want people to think. So I'm like, but it's not the truth. And I mean, that started as the earliest I remember, I was 5 years old. I'm a 5-year-old girl who's being told to lie because I need to protect my mother's reputation and my stepfather's reputation. And it's not okay to be who I am or tell the truth. Like, even they wanted me to negate the fact that my stepfather wasn't, really my father. Everybody had to believe he was. And they wanted, don't tell anyone you're Puerto Rican and don't tell just all this stuff. So now you're taking away my authenticity, my identity, telling me to lie. I honestly don't know how I didn't grow up to be an A1 freaking narcissistic a-hole like they are. Because I don't know. And people ask me all the time, and I'm like, I just was how I was. I was that precocious little girl that questioned
Right.
everything. And it just wasn't right. And I was not going to participate in it. That's all I can say.
Well,
But
that I
that is
think that made our
absolutely not,
childhood. I think that made our childhood even harder because
of course it does.
we decided not to give in and be like them. I mean, we could have, and it would
Yeah.
have made things a whole lot simpler,
Oh, yeah.
but we chose not to.
Absolutely. I'd have a family. I'd have a whole lot of family. I wouldn't be so damn lonely. I wouldn't have been rejected. I wouldn't have been exiled. But you
Hmm.
know what? I'll take me and my truth all day long than live a lie that somebody wanted to tell. Not just a lie about them, but lying about myself. What a horrible thing to be dishonest with yourself even. It's almost like gaslighting yourself, which I hate to say I see people do. I mean, that's what my mother does. She goes along she wasn't always, I mean, she was, but definitely her husband, motivates things. And even now it's hard because, my grandma lives with them because she's getting up there in years and somebody had to take her in. And I tried, but everyone thought, well, that's her daughter. She should go live with her daughter. So she's with my mother and stepfather. And I mean, I even talked to her this morning and it's so sad because she's basically being held captive. I'm not allowed to come see her. Even when I'm on the phone with her, they now have video cameras inside the house and multiple of them monitoring what she says, who she talks to on the phone, what she's saying to people. So sometimes she whispers or sometimes she goes into Spanish so that maybe one of them might not understand what she's saying or I've learned to read between the lines or she'll say, "Oh, I'm not supposed to talk about that." I'm not supposed to. I'm like, you're 84 years old. You can talk about whatever the hell you want. Well, I'm
Right.
not supposed to bring up that person's name. Okay, well, you can. You're talking to me. Oh, no, I can't. There's cameras watching me. And if they find out, and it's like today she was hoping that maybe they take her out before this big winter storm we're supposed to get hit with tomorrow, because normally my mother only takes her out once a week. I mean, my effing God. Oh, yeah. And she's not allowed to come out of her bed. I mean, it's so disgusting. You want to talk about elder abuse? That's
I
a
was just
whole
gonna say
other,
that's elderly
it
abuse.
is, but it's a whole other aspect of narcissistic abuse because it's something people don't realize. When we say narcissistic abuse, it's not like an actual form of abuse, it's an all encompassing, it could be every abuse or any abuse, multiple abuses that a narcissist is using to inflict control upon people or a situation. And we don't talk enough about like the elder abuse that happens, like what my grandma's going through, but she won't let me take her out of there because believe me, it's me. And I'm sure if you were here, we'd pull a Thelma and Louise on
Oh
that
yeah,
crap
we
because
would.
I'm like, Grandma, my husband is almost 6'5", 220. If we need to come bust you out, we're coming. I'll bring the police with me. We're busting your ass out of there. But she doesn't want to cause trouble. She just wants peace. And that's what a lot of people do.
Yeah,
They go along with the narcissist to keep peace. How many people do we know in families, whole families,
that breaks my heart.
that go along with the narcissist and exile us, the truth tellers, to keep, we don't want to disturb it. We don't want to create division. We just want to keep everything, keep that person at bay, keep them appeased. F that. F that.
Yeah. They even say, and anybody who barely knows me knows that I worship my grandparents, like worship.
Yes.
I mean, you don't have to know me for an hour to know. And after my grandmother had passed, they would go around telling everybody that I hated them, that I never wanted to see them, that they had to force me to go near them. And I'm like, are you crazy? Every
Yeah.
apartment I've ever had, when Faith was it was a baby in the NICU, she had a picture of them in her incubator. Like she had a picture of them over her head. Right now, right here is a picture of my grandparents. Like they're in
Yeah.
every room of my home. Their picture is on my back. I had it tattooed on. Like for them to say that is just dumbfounding, right? But when I lived in a different state than they did or do still. And I found out that my grandmother had cancer, her cancer had returned, that she had to take a cab to go to the drugstore to go get her medication. And my egg donor was home. They had, nice, expensive cars. Um, could have taken her, but didn't. And when my sperm donor had found out once, he was mad at that point. He was, but I was like, when I talked to her, I said, what do you mean you had to take a cab? And she goes, well, she didn't want to take me. She would take you where? And so I was 6 hours away. So I started coming back to her place every other weekend. And she had built a home on their property, like a guest home on their
Yeah.
property. And so she was like, she wouldn't take me to the grocery store. She wouldn't take me anywhere. So I would drive 6 hours to come down and take her to the store and to go get her drugs that she needed at the pharmacy. And she would be like, why are you really down here? And I was like, I wanted to see you. And she's like, mm. And I always came down when it was refill time and we'd have dinner and I'd hang out with her. And she's like, you don't have to do that. You're right. I don't have to do that. I don't, but I'm going to do it because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
I mean, how the hell can you? I mean, at the holidays, they don't speak to her. They didn't go in there. When she was really sick, I found out about it because I called the hospital and they said that she had been admitted. I literally stopped what I was doing, dropped everything, and got down there. And they told me that, maybe a year left with her. And I immediately started planning going back, breaking my lease, stopping school, like
Yeah.
everything. And I mean, I was a poor college kid. I had nothing, I had no pot to piss in money wise. And so when I told her that, she was like, no. And I said, this really isn't an option. Like, I'm not gonna give you an option. And so when she came back to the house in her guest house, I told the nurse, I was like, you don't feed her, you don't bathe her, anything personal, I will do myself. Like, don't cross that line. And so she was like, the only way I'm going to agree to this is that if you let me pay you. And I was like, absolutely not. And she's like, you have bills. You just broke your lease. You have a car payment. You're going to be driving me to appointments. Let me give you some money. And I was like, no. Well, this went back and forth. And so finally, I, was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this and be here and take care of her because I did. I had, car insurance and car payment. So she was like, let me pay that. And so after finally arguing with her about it, I agreed. Well, so my biological parents were like, you took all this money from her. No, no, I didn't. I didn't want it. And when I tried to make her take it back, you can't do that to a New York woman. Like, that's just not going to
Yeah.
happen. And so I got such criticism that I was taking her for money. And it was like, are you crazy? Like that's
But
in
that's a perfect twist to the story though, because there's evidence that there was money exchanged between you two, but it's their word against yours, and they've already created this narrative for how many years of whatever, that you don't like them and you're this and you're that. Believe me, I think everybody can relate to that, but it's disgusting when people crap all over a very precious relationship that you hold dear to your heart.
right. And then, after she passed, it was 3 months later, he was like, "Oh, I gotta, tell you about the will and all this stuff." And then, it's in the book, but he played the nastiest, nastiest.
Yeah.
I can't even say it's a joke. Like, and he was like, "Oh, she left, everybody $1 million a piece, and she had a lot of money, but you wouldn't have known it." And I was like, "I don't want it. I don't want the money. I want my grandmother back." And that's what I kept saying. I was like, "I want her. No amount of money is going to bring her back. It's not going to make anything better. I don't want it." And he was like, "Well, it's going to be in a trust. And when you turn 25, you'll get it, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah." And he let this go. I mean, he even had paperwork done. And this went on for months. And then one day he was like, "What are you going to do when you get this money?" And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I just want my grandmother back." And he was like, "Well," and then months later, he's like, "Have you looked at a new car?" And I'm like, "No." And then he's like, "Well, why? You're going to get all this money." And I was like, "I don't care." And then he comes back later on and says it was an April Fool's joke. And I'm like, how in the hell can you consciously make a joke not only about your mother, but one of the greatest human beings to walk on this planet, and you think it's funny? Like, you think that's funny. And
And
she had
it's
told me,
cruel anyway. It's cruel anyway to toy with somebody like that, because even if it was just $1,000 for some people, that could like make or break their ability to pay rent. And if they're
right.
counting on that money coming and being told, I mean, that's just sick.
Well, and not just that, but I mean, she had told me that, she was going to make sure that she left me certain things. And I was like, I want the memories. I want to look at that piece of furniture and remember how I used to play hide and seek and put like things in
Yeah.
there that are still there today. Because
Yeah.
those are the things. And I would never sell it. Never. That's what I want. I want the memories. And so I didn't get any of it. He kept everything. He never probated the will, so I can't get it. I don't have my way of finding out what's in it. I know that nothing was distributed the way it was supposed to be. He kept all of it, and I know he even kept money that my biological mother didn't know was left. I mean, and it's just like I don't understand how you lay your bed in bed at night and put your head down and go to sleep. I just don't, because it doesn't make sense to me. I would rather have a roof over my head and clothes on my husband and child and food in their stomach and have a comfy cozy home than live in an empty, heartless, lifeless house or mansion
Yeah.
as our parents. I
Well,
mean,
that's the
still,
thing though. They like to have all their stuff, their prestigious, status, perception, life. They have to be perceived as being so much better than everybody by having all this crap.
right.
So that, but they're gonna, I mean, I once told my mother, I said, your husband's gonna die very, very alone unless you're around to be by his side. And then you're probably gonna die pretty alone too, because of all the people that you have, lost in this big mess of staying with him. So,
Well,
to each their own. And that's the one thing that's really hard. Um, I would never expect somebody to think how I think or believe what I believe. But when it comes to just basic humanity, basic human kindness and courtesy, I will never understand, and thankfully so, how a narcissist operates and how they completely justify how they are. So, I mean, hopefully that helps anybody listening. I mean, any question you have, we can explain them. We can give you the
right.
why. We can make you understand, what your best course of action is in response. But you know what? You're not going to change these people. And I have said it a million times. I know that you believe the same thing, Victoria. There, the only way to have peace is to not have them in your life.
Yeah, go to
They
revenge
will
that.
continue to torment you. You might get brief periods, like in my former marriage to a narcissist, 25 years. Oh, I'll be better. I promise. I promise this. The
Yeah.
longest he could ever go was 10 days. And what's sad is that I never shared that with anybody. And when my son was, well, our son, I just say my son because he's mine. I don't want to acknowledge the other half of
I
him,
don't blame you.
but my son came to me. He was maybe 10, 11 years old. And he goes, oh, this again. He goes, Dad can't last longer than a week, being good. And I'm just like, gosh, this is a child saying this. And I give him the 10 days. He usually could go 10 days being nice, but then yeah, the volcano would blow and all hell would break loose and the earth would be set on fire. So
Hmm.
it never lasts. And
Did you
I was on that hamster wheel for 25 years and it never changed until I got off. So
did you ever experience with your narcissist that they had to like everything was materialistic? Like for instance, they
100%.
they bought an RV, right? So they could go wherever. And when they would tell somebody they bought an RV, it wasn't, oh, we just got an RV. It was a we have like I don't even know the brand. I knew when they told me what it was.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name of it.
They have to impress people.
Right. But
Yeah.
then it was not only this brand, but it is the Ralph Lauren Platinum Edition.
Oh,
And
of
that was
course.
always stated. It was
Yeah.
not, it's just this.
Yeah.
It's the Ralph Lauren Platinum Edition. And it's like, so what?
Absolutely.
So
But
what?
again, everything a narcissist says is to bait people into giving them admiration, adoration, and praise, as if they really do think they're freaking gods.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite, and it's actually funny, but I always hated my mother and her stupid Christmas newsletters. I actually like reading people's Christmas newsletters, but just not hers. At one point, I even told her, stop putting me and my son in them because uh, she wasn't saying nice things. And well, half the crap she said wasn't even true. And I was just like, please keep me out of this. But one year she put in there that her husband bought a new, and again, it just like what you were saying, and that's what brought it up. It was a new Corvette, like the newest one, but he bought it, and I can't even remember. Rusty Wallace, I guess, is some
Yeah.
big car racer. That shows how much I know. He bought it from Rusty Wallace. Like this guy owned it first, and now it was his. But she put in the newsletter, we paid whatever amount of dollars. Like she actually said how much money they paid as if this was going to impress people. And then
Wow.
at a Christmas party after that, somebody, to be nice was like, oh, I read your Christmas newsletter, heard about, the car. And this jackass, my stepfather, needless to say, is an extremely overt, over the effing top narcissist. He does not hold back and he's not shy in any way. Tells this relative, this aunt of mine, oh, yeah, and we paid this much. You'd never be able to afford any kind of vehicle like that. And she had the same expression you have right now, but that's how he is. He is so audacious. It sometimes it comes off as funny, and people often think he's funny because he's entertaining, if nothing else. But after growing up with that, like I'm so over the obnoxiousness. And by the way, his first Corvette, because he has owned multiple, his first Corvette he ever bought. And I don't remember if this ended up in the book because you know how it is writing a book. You put
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
in, you take stuff out, all the revising. But his very first one, it was a Sunday morning, like early, like 6, 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning. And you hear somebody blaring a car horn outside. And, this was back in like late 70s, early 80s when people actually like did go to church on Sunday or slept in because nothing was open on Sunday.
Right.
And my mom and I look out the window and it's her jackass husband going down the street in his new Corvette because he wanted to honk and he did not get off that horn. Everybody was looking out because he wanted everybody to see him in this Corvette. And everybody did. Everybody saw him. And he didn't even care that he was waking up like the whole damn town. I swear to God. That's narcissistic behavior.
Yeah.
That's a typical overt narcissist. A lot of them are obsessed with status, like the name brands and status symbols
Yes.
and high-end things. And they can take their, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I can appreciate something that's high end. Oftentimes, often, not always, it is of a higher quality that I can't normally always indulge in. But it's nice to have those things, but I wouldn't go rub it in everybody's face or put it in a Christmas newsletter.
Right. No. Like he had somebody who would detail cars for him and he had the expensive cars and it's just like, all right, is it going to get you from point A to point B? And he's like, you're a senior executive and you're in your early 20s, you should be driving a brand new Lexus. And I'm like, you make the payment, I'm still not going to drive it. Like, no. And he turned around and the guy was our age. And so
Yeah.
really nice guy, just hard worker. I guess you could just say blue collar, nice guy.
Yeah.
Never going to be able to afford a car that he was detailing, but that doesn't mean anything to me. I'd still go say, hey, do you need a bottle of water? You want a drink? Coke, whatever. And I remember distinctly, he calls me up and he is just fit to be tied. And I'm like, what is wrong with you today? Like, what is it today? And he's like, you're never going to believe this. There's a lot of times I would just put the phone on speaker and put it down because that's just what I did. And he was like, you're never going to believe this. And then he was like, so and so is dead. And I was like, what? I was like, he was just here a week ago. And he was like, yeah. And the bastard did not finish my cars and I paid him ahead of time.
Oh my gosh.
And I couldn't make this up. And I was like, wait, are you what? And he was like, I paid him ahead of time because he was a single dad and he was doing something for his son. And he said, hey, I'll be back next weekend. Do you think you could go ahead and give me what, you'll owe me for the rest and I'll come back? Now, this is somebody that I've known at least 20 years, like at least. And when he said, okay, now he was never on time, but if he said he was going to be there that
Yeah.
day, unless something happened, he was there, right? So, okay. And he's like, oh, I swear. And he's like cursing and everything. And I'm like, hey, wait. Did I miss where you just said he died? And he's like, yeah, he had a heart attack. And I didn't get the rest of my work done. And he has my money. And I'm like, okay, I'm just curious. And I'm probably going to regret asking this, but like, what are we talking about? He's like, I gave him $50. And I'm like, you are such a slimeless
My
bastard.
gosh. You know what? And I'm thinking, I mean, even if it was a few hundred, even if it like the guy died, it's not like he wanted to or
Right.
tried
I'm
to
going to
or
avoid him by dying.
yeah, like I don't know. But that's just so that sounds typically narcissistic. It's somebody, the offense to them that this person would be so bold as to die. Oh my
How dare
gosh.
you? Right. And then the money went to the kid. He goes, I'm going to ask the kid for the money back.
Oh my God.
I said, you can't do that. Like, you can't do that. He has,
That's
the kid
oh,
is not graduated high school. The kid is living or was living alone with
oh
his dad. And
God.
his dad did a hell of a good job raising this kid. And you're going to have the audacity. And I was like, why doesn't this surprise me? Like, and he's like, somebody needs to give me this back. You
Oh
walk
my
around with a
goodness.
wad of Benjamin Franklin's like this everywhere you go. And you are literally got your thong in an uproar because somebody took a $50 bill from you.
Oh, he would
And
so get along with my stepfather. It was the same thing. Penny pincher. His money, his money, his money. Nobody else could spend it. You know, even my mother went without health insurance for a long time, and God forbid I needed to go to the doctor for anything. He always had health insurance though, and he went for regular exams, but God forbid any. I remember going to the emergency room once, and I probably still to this day would be hearing about him getting the bill for what the insurance didn't cover on that because
yeah,
my boyfriend took me to the emergency room.
that's what
Oh,
blows my mind. And Faith is like, I don't understand because we're good people and all we try to do is help people and pay it forward. And he's never had anything health wise. And I'm like, you're right. Like,
I've noticed that too. Every narcissist I know is just walking like they're going to live till they're 100, these a-holes. And then there's people just like fighting for their next breath. There's children that are
Yeah.
suffering and dying, and people dying too young, good people. And
I told you before what live is
uh,
backwards.
yeah,
It's evil,
yeah.
right? And my egg donor used to turn around and say, "I'm Peter Pan. I'm gonna live forever." And one day I looked at Faith, and Faith looked at me and goes, "I think she's right." And I'm like, "Oh." But I gotta find the picture. Faith drew a picture of for her, because she called her Mimi because everything was about her. So it was all me, 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 me. And so she drew a picture. I had a gorgeous picture made of her and her grandfather, and hand to God, he put it in front of the trash cans in the garage, like huge canvas painting, and he put it in front of the trash cans in the garage. And so Faith was a little perturbed, and so she drew a picture. I have it somewhere, and she showed it to me, and then she showed it to her, and she goes, "I don't get it." And sh Faith looks at me and goes, "Is she serious?" And I was like, "Yeah." It is a grandma looking down at her grandchild who is who is holding a
Oh
bucket,
gosh.
and she says, "Kick it." Kick the bucket.
Oh, yikes.
And that's
I
what
mean, that's sad. I don't know what to say to that because I mean, if that's how you
because it's
make your
Faith.
grandchild feel,
Yeah.
yeah, I understand that, but I mean, any child should not feel that way. Like, I mean, like people often condemn me for allowing, although my son is 21, I can't really allow him much anymore. He's a grown young man, but yeah, I allowed him to have a relationship with them because I understood that the abuse and that mistreatment was specifically to me because I was the unwanted child that my mother had to carry out. Well, she didn't have to. She chose to carry shame about having me as a teenager, and it was my fault for making myself apparently and existing, that I infringed upon her life. But it. I am glad that they at least put on their fake BS facade like they do with everyone else for my son because my son actually he sees his grandparents for what they are, but they are not cruel or mean to him. I mean, there's things I have taken issues with, but for the most part, they're as good as they're going to be towards somebody to him. And narcissists are very good at that. That's how they fool people. That's how in romantic relationships and friendships, they fool us in the beginning and lure us in with their
Yep.
charm and all their crap. But yeah, but to have a grandparent that would do that, put that picture out in the garbage. I mean, I would never think to do that to any child that
Yeah.
drew
I
a
mean, but
picture
they've
for me.
always been
That's
this
so
way. Like
sad.
they've always been this way
Yeah,
with her. Always. They never want to spend time with her, never want to do anything with her unless it was my bio dad and it was, the excuse to use us to have an excuse to go out with us to see other women.
right.
And that was awful. I mean, she's an amazing kid who has fought and fought and fought, and they just, you know,
They're lost.
they
They're
told
lost.
her that, like if I died on the OR table, that it would be no loss and that they don't love me. And they've told her that. And, I mean, and she's like, "You are so opposite of them." And I said, "I gave you everything I ever wanted and never got."
100%. That's what I did with my son. And I think that's what a lot of people do, which is why when I am asked, "Oh, were your parents abused as children?" I say, yes, in fact, they were terribly, terribly. Both of them. Well, when I say parents, I mean stepfather and mother because they're the ones who raised me. But that is not an excuse because after what
Thank
I
you.
went through,
How many
after
people
what you
say it
went
is?
through, I made a choice. Number one, I made a choice not to have kids, but then my biological clock said, yeah, maybe we do want one anyway. And I made a choice when I held my son, well, before he even came out of my womb, he was going to know that he was loved no matter
Break the
what, no
cycle.
matter how. I would never, ever let us have an estranged relationship. And I
You
just
broke the
don't
cycle.
understand people that perpetuate these cycles and people can say, oh, they don't know any different. They don't know any better. You know what? I was 5 years old going to play with the other little kids on the block, and I could see how their moms and dads treated them and their grandmas and grandpas and whoever else. Nobody was perfect. Well, a few of them seemed to be, but we know how that goes. But at the end of the day, I knew what was going on in my house wasn't right. I knew their relationship wasn't right. I knew how they treated me wasn't right. And I was not going to put another child, never mind my own, through the same crap that I went through. So I don't buy all that, oh, if they were abused, that explains it, or I don't know any better. They don't know any better. Bull effing S. That's
Right. You have
no.
no idea how
Uh-uh.
many times I've heard from people say, but they were abused, so that explains it. That doesn't give the right to them
Yeah.
to pass it on. That's why you break the cycle. Stop playing that freaking victim card because
Yeah.
that is not okay.
Well,
It's not
everybody
okay.
wants an excuse. Everybody wants an excuse because it gives them a way out because then they don't have trauma to heal because that's what abuse
Right.
is. It's
Right.
somebody else's unhealed trauma that they're not willing to deal with or acknowledge, so they put it on somebody else. And I don't know about you, but I've traced my crap back 8 generations, and I am carrying 8 generations of bull crap. No, I put that crap. I finally have been able to put it down. And it's not easy. The burden on us to undo all that stuff, but it's so much better to go through the healing, which is nasty and awful, to be able to undo all that stuff. And is it all completely gone? No, I'm still,
Yeah.
still have a smear of crap here and there once in a while that I
Mhm.
notice, and I gotta wipe that up, clean that up. But my God. And somebody told me something interesting, though. This was very recently. She said, "You think you're the cycle breaker, but you're not." She says, "It's actually you are the one that decided the cycle should be broken, but we'll see if it really is with your son, with your children and grandchildren." I thought, oh, crap. So good thing that my son lives nearby. And as much as I don't want to live in this god awful state, I'm going to stay around because he doesn't think I do anything all day at home. I'm home all day doing nothing. I don't actually work. But that's fine for him to think that because he's asked me when he has children if I could, be his free babysitter. So I'm like, that's all good. I will be their primary caretaker. So I will ensure that damn cycle is broken. That
Yeah.
chain will be broken. There will be nothing, no remainders left of it on my little grandbabies.
That's
And
right.
they're going to call me Glamma because,
I
like
love
glam.
grandma.
Yeah, Glamma. We're going to all wear lipstick and have our lashes and all our nails done.
It's gonna be a hot grandma.
I was gonna go for, spicy mamacita or something, but that's a lot for a 2-year-old. So I
Yeah.
figured Glamma is we can start with that. So
That's too cute. I can just see like a little matching pajama day and all sorts of cuteness. Oh, goodness
oh
gracious.
yeah. And they can't stop me. We're gonna go have lots of fun and do lots of fun things because I mean that's what I tried to do. Well, I did do that with my son as much as I could within that marriage to his father, which
Yeah.
was not fun. But with the grandkids, I'm going to have, it's going to be all balls out. So it's exciting.
Oh,
Yay. Well, we better answer some questions because people have been writing in
we
probably
have been
forever.
answering some,
Oh,
but
have we? Okay.
yeah,
Well, hopefully.
yeah. In the next one, we're going to do nothing but answer questions.
Okay.
That's what we're going to do on the next one. So, but we're gonna get these back out more routinely since we had to.
Yes.
We'll say this is our season 2 because we took a little break there.
Yeah, and we apologize. Illnesses going around after Christmas and just, I mean, schedules and it's just been a whole lot of, but I think everybody understands January. It
Yeah, it
was
was
a
awful.
very long January,
Yes,
but
it was. We will be
yeah,
back.
we all need
We
to
will be back
breathe.
soon. We will be back soon. Soon, soon, soon.
Yes, I'm
Yes.
looking forward to it.
Yes. So keep all of the questions and comments coming in, and we will get to all of them.
Yes, we
So,
will. Keep listening. Share these episodes with your friends, with anybody else who you think might relate, because that's the best way to help them out is for us to let them know instead of you. Because if you do it, it's kind of confrontational, or they may take offense or be embarrassed or ashamed. And we want everybody to feel the love. So share
we'll do
this,
it.
please. Listen next time, and we'll see you then. Peace out.
Bye.